Hi guys, welcome back to We Should Talk, a pop culture interview series from In the Know. I'm your host, Gibson Johns, and today on the podcast we have Gabby Prescod, one of the 3 new additions to this season of Summer House on Bravo. And to me, Gabby's made the biggest impression of the bunch. She is really kind of putting herself out there, engaging with the show, engaging with everybody in the house, and I don't know, I think that she is just she's been great TV so far, and I'm a huge fan, and it was really fun to get some time with her. I talked about her decision to join the show and sort of what went into that decision. Did she have any apprehensions when it came to her career in fashion before saying yes to it? And then we got into a bunch of the relationships she's been able to create with the other people in the house. And, I think it's cool that she was given the space to create individual friendships with quote unquote both sides of the female friendships in this house. I mean, she's great friends with pretty much everybody, but she's also been able to befriend Lindsay and Danielle and maintain those friendships. And I think that's really cool, and I think that's nice that she was given that space. And we kind of dissected that, and it was really interesting to hear about that. We talked about some other things, seeing that conversation that Ciara and Maya had about her in last week's episode, and sort of what her thoughts were on that. It had just aired two nights before, so it was still kind of fresh in her mind. But I think Gabby is great. I'm looking forward to the rest of this season, and I'm all for her coming back for another one. So keep listening for my interview with Gabby Prescod. Tune into Summer House on Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern on Bravo. And please rate, review, and subscribe to We Should Talk on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, so we're here with Gabby Prescod from Summer House. She is one of the new additions to the cast, and she has been phenomenal so far throughout the beginning of this season. Gabby, how are you? I'm excited to meet you.
I'm good. I'm excited to meet you too. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So obviously there's the whole filming experience, but what's it been like now that we're kind of deep into this, not deep, but we're into the season,
Yeah.
and watching it back as a whole other beast. What's it been like for you?
It is so bizarre to see yourself do things that you already lived. And like I was talking to my therapist about this too. It's kind of like you're living in the past, right? Because like all this has happened 8 months ago, but like it's new to everyone else. So you're kind of like reliving it. And it's also like you're seeing what people are saying in their confessional. So there's also like new elements to it too. So it's like living in the past, but like not in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. And it
Really bizarre.
sort of regurgitates it and resurfaces it. And
Yeah.
the Watch What Happens Live of it all also plays into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Very bizarre experience.
Were
Therapy
you
is helpful.
were you given all of that when you went on Watch What Happens Live, which you were great on, by the way, but was that type of mind for you? Like, oh my God, I don't want to like stir any shit up when I'm in this half an hour.
Oh my God, 100%. Also, like, I think I disassociated completely from my body during that whole experience. Like, doing live TV in general is just something that, like, is a whole other beast. I was like, please don't curse.
Right.
Also,
Totally.
don't embarrass your family. That's it.
I love those the cardinal rules of being on live TV.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you have observed about yourself, either, or maybe it's how you're edited too, but like, is there anything that you picked up on about yourself that has surprised you?
I cannot stand the sound of my own voice, but that is
Nobody can. Nobody can.
it's just like I don't think that I'm gonna get away from that. And I mean, it's just like there's so many aspects that you think that you have to get used to and kind of just swallow because it already happened, right? So there's nothing that you can do to change it. Like, yeah, do I wish that like I brought a straightener to the Hamptons? Sure. Did I do it? No. Is my hair gonna look crazy? Absolutely. It's just like it's in the past, it's done, whatever. Hindsight's always 2020.
Yeah. And I think also with Summer House, it's not Housewives where you can prepare for every scene. It's just 24/7. So you're not always gonna look picture perfect. It's just part of the deal.
It's like I will be depuffing my face every single morning. Like sometimes the cameras are there before I even brush my teeth. Like truly, it's just how it happens.
So before we get too far into it, I'm curious because you worked in fashion, you've worked at corporate companies, like you've kind of run the gamut, I think, in your career for the past 10 years, it seems. And I'm wondering if, like, once the Summer House opportunity came along, what did you take into consideration given your profession, or did that not play into it? Like, what do you think about before, okay, I'm going to join this group and be in a Summer House with them and be on TV?
Honestly, at that point in the summer, I was unemployed.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, I'm
There
doing
we
it. I
go.
don't really care. But it's weird because literally like maybe 2 weeks into filming is when I got two job offers and now currently the job that I have now. So it was kind of like I had to give them a heads up. Like, by the way, I'm doing this crazy thing. And if they said like, oh, this is a problem for us, like that would have been had to been a conversation that I had. But luckily my boss was like, okay, that's great. I don't really care. Like you already signed the contract. I still want to hire you. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that also the relationships that I've built over my past 10 years in the industry, I would hope wouldn't affect what I do on my weekends. And to be honest, I don't think that any profession you have should dictate what you do with your free time.
Mm. That's a good mentality to have. But I just feel like maybe in other industries it would take more of like
I
a
mean, yeah, I'm sure that like there's certain companies that wouldn't want their employees like
right.
camera drinking, but I think that also the good thing about the show is it gives you the option of like not really having to share that because they do know that this is our real lives here too.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
they're conscious of that. And like if I had a job that like wouldn't want to be mentioned, it wouldn't be mentioned.
Totally. So I mean, I genuinely mean it that you've made a really great impression in these first 5 episodes, and that's not easy to do. I think when you're coming into a house like this with such established big personalities, and you get along with most of the women. It seems like you bravely tried to talk Kyle off a ledge when he was going off in the backyard an episode or two ago. Like those are things that I don't think every new addition to this group would be able to do. And I'm curious if like was that just natural for you, or did you feel like, okay, I really have to kind of push myself a little bit to make sure these connections are strong and to really try to get to know these people?
Um, Usually with all my like friendships, I kind of go head first. I go off a vibe, and like if I'm like with you, then I with you heavy kind of
Yeah.
thing. And so that's really how I am with people. And also like if I'm the type of person that can't really hide what they're feeling well and how they react to things well either. So like if I'm feeling something, you're gonna see it on my face, and like I will probably speak on it before I can like process how it's just like how I am
Yeah.
as a person. So if I don't agree with you or if I have an opinion on something, I'm most likely going to share it. And it could be to my detriment. And like in the past, it probably has been to my detriment. But like I think about the glory and like the beautiful thing about friendships is accepting people for who they are and how they come. So
Hmm.
I think
Yeah.
that everyone in the house was pretty accepting of that. And I think
Yeah.
that's really nice.
That's pretty nice. Yeah. And Paige is the one that sort of introduced you to this group. And
Mhm.
I'm curious how that, or what did she must have told you some things kind of before you got into that car.
Yeah.
What's something that you were keeping top of mind that she had whispered in your ear or,
She gave me a full kind of like comprehensive look about like who everyone was. Cause I mean, we'd known each other for a year at this point.
Mhm.
So it's like, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And she's like, okay, like here's like the thing. But she also was like, I'm only telling you like a surface level thing. So like things that you can find about these people if you Google them. She's like, I want you to form your own opinions about everyone else without me having influenced them. And I'm really appreciative that she did that because I was able to form my own opinion. So it was very surface level, like, listen, like I've had like personal issues with this person in the past. Like these people are married, their relationship has kind of been in flux recently because of like whatever. So,
XYZ? Yeah.
right. Like she gave me a very surface level introduction to these people. And so
Hmm.
I didn't know that much about them, but I knew enough to be like, okay, like,
Totally.
and then once you meet them too, like you can see how everyone interacts. So it's very easy to say, like, who's okay with someone who is like obviously has some tension. Like it's no one in the house is very good at hiding how they feel.
I completely agree with that. Who was the person beyond Paige that you felt like the immediate connection with them was just really, really strong and sort of irresistible?
Definitely Sam. Like her and I are very close, even now to this day. And I think that it's beyond the fact that we were both newbies and then we were then also sharing a bed together for the entire summer.
Right.
But like the way that we grew up is very similar. The way that we interact with our families is very similar. Like we've had, I think, very similar experiences. So, which is also shocking because she's 25. So
No,
I
but
was like,
yeah,
okay.
I think that comes across though already that like it was nice for you to have another woman that you got along with to come in
So
with.
thankful, because I honestly think that my experience would be so different if she wasn't there,
Mm.
and vice versa.
Like almost like lonelier, or like what do you think it would have?
I think it would have been like, I think a struggle for me if I commend Maya for this too, coming into this being the only new girl
Mm-hmm.
last summer, but like I think it would have been a struggle just to like I feel like also maybe I would have been a little bit more desperate to
Mm.
like try to
To like
like
assert
build those,
yourself.
like, or like form those female connections, because I felt like everyone in the house would have already had them, right?
Mm. Yeah, totally. So I said earlier that you get along with, it seems like, all the women. Is that accurate? Like do you feel like you have good relationships with all the other women in the house?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all pretty like standard. Like, obviously, I'm going to be closer with certain people, but do I have like beef with anybody? No.
Right. Okay. And because I'm curious, because like I think it was last episode, Maya and Ciara had this conversation where they're talking about you in the kitchen,
Yeah.
and Ciara calls you privileged, but not, I don't think in a derogatory way. I think she was just trying to like encapsulate like just differences in how you guys look at life or whatever or something. But
Mhm.
I didn't read it as like mean or whatever. But I'm curious of how you reacted to that, to seeing that conversation again, because you were not there in the moment, and
Yeah.
it was got shown on TV.
Yeah. I mean, it's always really hard when you hear that people are talking about you behind your back in general. It just so happens that this is like now on TV. And I didn't know that that conversation happened either. So I'm kind of living it with everybody else at the same time. So it's never a good feeling to have that. And until that point, like I never felt like I had a chance to really connect with Ciara on a deeper level, period. So I'm like, if that's your surface level opinion of me and like your first impression, that's fine. But like there should be like an attempt to like try to get to know me if like, you really want to try, right?
Mm,
And so like that's kind of like the hard part of hearing that. It's like, okay, like you feel this, but then you're also like, what are you going to do to like change it,
right.
right? Or make it better?
Do you feel like, are we going to see in the subsequent episodes that effort being made, or do you feel like there's still that space for that to be made?
I feel like there's still space. I just feel like by nature of how we were existing in the house, the friendships that she had formed in the previous summers were like the ones that she stuck to. And I feel like what I was building and like how I was experiencing my first summer was separate from that.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
And another sort of female dynamic in the house that obviously is a point of big intrigue this year is Danielle and Lindsay, and they've been best friends for a long time. There's a falling out that happens, but it seems like you are on good terms and genuinely friends with both of them. You just had a girls' night with Lindsay and Sam. Like I've seen you
Yeah.
hanging out with Danielle. Like I guess first coming in and seeing them be best friends at the beginning of the summer, but you have less skin in the game, and then you see the falling out. What was that like for you? And did you feel like you had to pick a side or not? Because again, you're almost like watching it happen, right?
Yeah. I felt very lucky to be like a little bit a step removed from it. Obviously their friendship was very deep, years long, and something that was a genuine thing. So it's very sad to see the disillusion because like
I agree.
there's so much hurt there too from both of them. And it's painful to see. Like I think that friendship breakups are harder than relationship breakups, and it's never going to get easier to like relive that either, because now you're watching it back. Like you already experienced it and now you're watching it back. I think that what they both value in my perspective and like how I've like navigated being friends with both of them is that I will always be honest in how I'm feeling. And I will always feel like if I will speak up if I think that they're wrong. And I think that that provides them perspective on how they are approaching their tiff fight, whatever.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
because like Sam and I are removed from it. Like we have no idea what their history is. We're coming in and going based off of like how we have interacted with them this summer. So I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe that was a thing to say, or like I don't really think that that was right. And I think that they both value that, and they haven't ever asked me to pick a side. So, and hopefully
Yeah.
they won't.
Oh, I
you
think that's
know.
good. And I think that makes sense because I think like with like a Paige or Ciara, for example, like they're closer to Amanda. They
Yeah.
have had a history with Lindsay. So it makes sense for them to be on that way. But I think it's also refreshing to know that like you were given the space to form those friendships individually, regardless of the history, you know?
Right. And like, again, like nothing is happening here that's so bad that like I would have to like stop a friendship with someone else. Like there's no,
It wasn't like a betrayal.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's happening. It's just really sad. I think at the end of the day, it boils down to miscommunication, and that can be fixed. A betrayal
Hmm.
is a different thing. And
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
like,
So I'm curious again. So given all of that, I think one of a certain, I think, faction of people both on the show and off the show sort of view they label Lindsay as like not being a girl's girl, and they point to like some of her history with female friendships not lasting, what have you. What do you make of that, knowing that you've been able to form a friendship with her as a woman? And like, I guess I'm just curious because again, it's something that other people on the show even think, I think.
right. Well, it's not something like a narrative that I've heard like spoken about her. I just heard that like, oh, like maybe Lindsay's a little like intimidating, or like, she's very vocal and like she won't isn't like gonna back away from a fight. But like that's never, I don't think that's a character trait that doesn't make her able to be and like maintain friendships with
Yeah.
women. So when I walked into the house, I feel like we had immediate like draw to each other because our personalities are a little similar.
Right.
Like I'm also not going to back away from a fight, but like I also can get loud and like I also will share my opinions, and it's very much that. And I mean, she is also drawn to Sam too. And like I feel like Sam and her might have personality differences that aren't the same that her and I share, but she still forms a friendship with her. So I don't really understand where that is coming from. But if that's people's experiences with her, that's fine. But it wasn't mine.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's, again, I like that. I like the mentality because I think that it's so easy to label things, I
Yeah.
think, based on what you've heard or quote unquote. And so I think
Right.
that, yeah, 100%. And
It's
then,
also like not fair to do that to someone. Like
no, of
go
course
in
not.
with like a preconceived notion already. Like that's just not fair.
Yeah.
Because
Also,
people want that done to you.
and even if you've like, even, and this is not you, but even if you had like studied every episode of Summer House ever and like came in with all those, it's like, that's based on like what we're shown and sort of, you know
Right.
what I mean? So it's, again, it's refreshing to be able to form your own opinion of somebody in that position.
Yeah.
On the flip side with Danielle, like you went into the summer knowing that that your ex had cheated on you with her, and she
Yeah.
obviously was not aware of that, as we saw on the show. But like, did were you just relieved to see that Danielle is the way she is, and it wasn't a big deal for you guys to talk about that? Or like, did you have an
Yeah.
anxiety about bringing it up, talking about through that mentally?
I think that this is also like 5 year removed from like the whole relationship and all of that coming out. So I feel like maybe if I had been closer to it, my feelings would have been a little bit more raw and like
Right.
unfiltered. But I was so far removed from like any kind of like anger. And again, it wasn't her fault either. She was technically a victim in his scheme too. Like we all got scammed
Yeah.
by this. And I'm sure that there's more people who also were in the web.
It's like a
So
sisterhood.
truly, I'm gonna get them all together. We're gonna have a class action lawsuit against him. Like actually. But I think that it was also something that we both knew about each other. So we had to address, and I wanted to get it out of the way so that we could also then potentially form another friendship. Because I mean, my ex, at least I will say to his benefit, has great taste. So like, and
There we go. I
she's a
agree.
great girl,
Great
and
girl.
it's really nice to be able to like hear her perspective and how things played out too. Cause like I had my theories, but like it's nice to know what her timeline was
Hmm.
and that she was also betrayed, like lied and betrayed too. Like,
Mm. Yeah, it's almost like a bit of a trauma bond, a little bit.
yeah, exactly.
Mm.
It's like that movie, The Other Woman, with like
Yeah.
Leslie Mann,
Yeah.
and it's just the same thing.
Mm. I think Nicki Minaj is in that movie. That I forgot about that
Iconic.
movie.
It's one of my favorite movies of all
That's
time.
a
I
great
love
movie. I need to rewatch that.
We lived it in real life. So, and it was also in the Hamptons. So, wow, full
There
circle.
we go. Full circle, baby. In this most recent episode and going into next week's episode, which I've seen, it's your party that they gave you shit for. You weren't super
Yep.
prepared for it.
Yep.
They call it a 6.5 out of 10.
Mhm.
But it's a little harsh, but also to me that reflected a sort of level of comfort that you guys had already gotten to like be able to kind of like get like rib each other and kind of
Yeah.
joke around, but like that. Did you feel that in that moment, or did it feel like a little
Yeah.
bit of hazing?
Especially because it came from Danielle too. And like, I will say this, after spending an entire summer with Danielle, she knows how to throw a party. She knows how to host a party. Like, she
Totally.
is very good at it. Like, I should have hired her to do this. Like, 100%. But like, yeah, it's just, I am not a host. I don't like to be a host. I like to attend parties. So that is not something that I think should have been given to me at all. But
It was brave of you to take it on.
It was my idea. So like, the idea was there, the execution faltered, but I will say at the end of the day, everyone did have a good time. And I think that that's the most successful and no major fights either.
100%.
So,
And ended with pizza. Come on. Like, hello. Love.
A win is a win.
A win is a win. So, we're 5-6 episodes in. Is there something that you already are kind of holding on to potentially for the reunion? Is it like, how are you kind of approaching the idea of a reunion for this season? Because that's a whole other beast again.
It is a whole other beast. I'm already having nightmares about a reunion. Already talking about it in therapy, just because like, it's not even me personally, because it's my first year. Like, I think that all of us as newbies, like, kind of got away with not having to be involved because a lot of the drama was surrounding everybody else.
Like long-standing issues too. Yeah.
Yeah, that we have like no place in, right? We were just there to have a good time. And I think that most of my anxiety about the reunion is the anticipation of like sitting through all of this rehashing of everything. Cause like I already lived it. It was already like, I feel like it took years off of my life. Like, but I also don't want to then have to sit through, like, I get anxiety about thinking about having to sit through that again. Because I think it's also only going to be that much worse now that it's edited together. You have green screen, so you see what other things happen behind your back. So it's only going to be worse,
right? But... And there's obviously a lot more to come in this area, and I think that's hard to predict where it's going to net out by the time you guys film that. But like with the Lindsay and Danielle of it all, you and Sam are two of the people that two of the few people that are on good terms with both of them.
Yeah.
Could you see you two helping to hopefully bring them back together, or is that not something you feel like is like something you want to take on or could take on?
I don't think resolution is going to be possible at the reunion. Okay. I think that there's not enough time and space away from what happened. I think they both need to take time and space, sit with like how they feel about how everything has transpired, and then come together, be shut in a room and like talk it out. Because I do think that at the end of the day, it all boils down to miscommunication. And if they can get back on the same page, it'll be good. But the reunion is going to be something different. It's going to be
too much of a circus. Yeah. Too much of a circus. Yeah.
And like, I don't think there's enough like tranquilizers in the world to make me want to take the job of trying to mediate between the two of them.
Fair, very fair. I do not blame you. I do not blame you.
I do not volunteer as tribute. Please take my name off that list.
And lastly, again, there's more to come. There's more to experience for you. But is this like, are you down to come back this summer and be in the summer house again?
I would love to. I think that like my whole goal out of doing this was to like kind of rebuild my friend group, like the people that I was closest to before the pandemic all kind of abandoned me. My sister moved away. My really good other friend like moved away. So, and a lot of people moved to Brooklyn, and that's basically
moving away. Right. Exactly.
So I am just kind of like, I feel like I needed to have another like core group of people that I could realistically like spend time with. And so I feel like I did get that out of this. So it would really like suck not to be able to go back next summer, because they're like friends now, actually. Like we hang out.
I love that. I love that. And I'm on team bring Gabby back for another season. So I'll start the campaign now.
Thank you so much. I support this message. I'm Gabby Prescod and I support this message.
Perfect way to end. Gabby, thank you so much for taking the time. And it was great. It was great to get some time with you. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the season.
Thank you so much. Good to meet you.
Of course. Yeah, you too. Thanks for tuning in to We Should Talk. I hope you enjoyed the interview. You can find out more about In the Know at intheknow.com. You can follow me, Gibson Johns, at Gibsonoma on Twitter and Instagram. And you can listen to all of our interviews, past and future, by searching We Should Talk wherever you get your podcasts. Hope to see you next time.